So this is a games controller question. It's from a MOX. It's a good bit to do with ellipses and parabolas. And we're just going to give you a few measurements to go along with it just to make it a little bit simpler to get started, and particularly when we're starting off here today. So the first thing that's we want to give here is the major axis and the minor axis. So we're going to say that this distance here is radius 95. Let me just say 140. Yes, radius 95. Okay, so we put major and we write or 95. And then our minor axis we're going to say is slightly less than the 140. So we'll say radius 60. Okay, so there may be a different way of constructing these, but for today, that's going to be perfectly acceptable. Okay, so we're going to set our compass here to 60 first. Okay, so what I did was I came down 130 there roughly, and I came in 140, but I think there will be plenty of space, but just in case anyone was wondering where I started. So there's my minor axis, my radius 60. So I'm going to draw my ellipse first. Okay, so my second one that I need to do is radius 95. Okay, so I'm going to draw that. And then at this stage, because we've practiced, this is the first full ellipse we've done this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw our pizza slices, as we call them, our 60 and 30 degree lines. And we'll find their various points. Okay. So we'll keep twisting around our set square. And that'll give us our orange lines. So there's basically our main splits done. So you'll see we've 12 splits there. And from the top one, or where the orange line hits the top circle or the bigger circle, we're going to bring it down. We're going to do a construction like that. And I suppose these are different to the ones we did before, in that the ellipse is on its edge, as if you had an egg left lying on a table. So I suppose the first thing that I should have done, although maybe not in black because it's not going to be heavy the whole way. Let me see if I have a light blue handy. So I'll just mark where I want to finish. So they're basically the points that I know. What did they call them? That was B. And that was H. I don't know if they give these two ones. But once I know where I'm finishing, then I know which side of this to use. If I did the other side, say for example here, I should know that that couldn't be correct. So what I can do now is I'm going to lightly sketch those in. So I'm not going to heavy them yet. I'm using a lighter blue because some of it won't be seen. Okay, so we'll repeat this for all sides. Now you could also mirror these across and down using axial symmetry, but really this is as quick a method. So that's what I would do. So just on the bottom ones, just to be careful, instead of going down the way from where it hits the big circle, the orange lines hit the big circle, they're now coming up the way. Okay. So we have our 12 points. So again, just be careful with where H is and where these points are, that you don't get confused. Okay, so we'll sketch it. So if this is the question that you're attempting in the exam, it's usually question 6. And the most important thing is that you know how to do an ellipse and know how to do a parabola. So I'm not going to look at the screen yet. I'm not going to look at the buttons or the D-pad, is it that they call this, or basically the crosshairs. So we're going to look, if we read the question, we see that these shapes are parabolas. And we know that they're 40 mil above and 40 mil below. And we know that they start out half of 140, which is 70 plus 20. So they start out 90 millimeters. So let's see, have I another different color I could use? I could use a purple, but it might be a bit dark. Maybe a red. Okay, so we're going to come out 90. We'll just bring it slightly inside of this curve. And we know that if we come down 40. Okay. You can draw this, and it comes out 20. It's actually quite short. Quite shallow, perhaps. double checking that I've done that right. Okay. So basically it's this rectangle. I probably could have drawn it a little bit neater for the video. My sets were there, some of the measurements are a little bit worn off it. So what I'll do is I'll redo it again here, a little bit more accurate, so that you can just see the rectangle rather than the other lines confusing you. So we'll measure 20. And it's 40 and 40, it's 80. Okay, so there's basically the rectangle for the parabola this time. So again, what you'll do is you'll mark the vertex, which is K in this case. This is the turning point. And you'll split this. So 20 divides by 5. So hopefully my marker isn't too thick. 4, 8, 12, and 16. And the same here, 4, 8, 12, and 16. And this here is 40 divided by 5. So it's 8, 16, 24, 32. 8, 16, 24, and 32. Now I might use a slightly thinner pen to mark these, just because right click marker on this will cause problems. So I'll try to zoom this in a little bit. Not too far. Okay, so hopefully that will make it a little bit easier for the video. And I'll use my thinner marker, or my thinner pen. Okay, so hopefully that seems to be okay. Anyways, at this stage you should know the gist of how to do a parabola. Hopefully that shows up okay on the video. And these ones will come straight across. So as usual, I should have numbered them. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm a little bit inaccurate just because I'm using a pen. But basically there's 1, 2 and 2 across, 3 and 3 across, and 4 and 4 across. And we'll sketch that in heavy because that's going to be heavy at this stage. So I'll use a purple. Okay, so and then what we do is we just repeat it. Now again, we could mirror it if we wanted to, but this is as quick, especially on something that's so small. So that's a little bit more even than the other side was. Bring it across and we'll put a dot on our various points. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll sketch in our curve. Okay, and then it shows us that that comes across to meet the ellipse. So there's a small little gap there. Okay. I hope I came out the right size there. I think I did. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was wondering. I was only bringing it as far as the circle. That's why I was getting confused. It needs to come as far as the blue ellipse. Okay. So we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So this should be 20. So we have 4, 8, 12, and 16. I'm going a little bit inaccurate there. I don't know what I did. Okay, but the method is fine. Again, the thickness of the markers and depending on which side of a set square can make quite a big difference when you have such thick markers. And we bring this across to meet it. So you can bring these lines straight across without necessarily measuring the splits again, because they have to be the same on this side. But whatever's handy, whatever makes life easy for you. Okay, if it's handy for you not to get confused and to use the ones you had originally. The most important thing is that you do your best not to make a mistake. Okay, so then we take the purple pen. There's this point, 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 and this point. So again, carefully mark out your points. Number them if it makes things easier for you. This will go across to meet this. This will go across to meet this. And now just take my purple and I'll go over the outline that I would see that would be heavy. Okay, so I have the games controller there, and they're the most important bits, that I get the ellipse shown and I get shown that I can do a parabola. So I could start drawing in the screen now is probably the next easiest thing. So we know that it's going to be 140 wide, so we know that it's 70 from either side of the line. So if I draw a line across between the two of these and measure 70 on the left and 70 on the right. Oh no, sorry, it's not 70. I was wondering because it would be touching the edge. It's the same width as this smaller circle. Sorry, I was trying to see what it is. So I was wondering because 70 wouldn't, there's no gap between it. So bring this across to meet it. Okay, so what that actually is it's level with the circle. Okay, so again we'll heavy that in our purple. Okay, and again if you're not sure, like it took me a second to see that and you get stuck on the day of the exam, most important thing there is that you put in a screen. Okay, we'll zoom that out a small bit. Okay, so what you can start to do then is you can start to put in the circles and the crosshairs here. So we'll start at that. So we know this is basically 10, 10 and 10 wide, and we can assume it's a symmetrical shape. So have they given us a distance for F? It seems that it lines up with this point here where this meets. Okay, so if we're accurate, that's going to be my starting point. Okay, so I'll bring this up 5 and I'll bring it down 5. And then I'll start to draw it out. So basically it's going to go 10 across. And I should be drawing this lightly really. 10 down, 10 across, 10 back up, 10 across further, and then up, and then the same on the top side. Okay, so it could be a little bit neater, but that's the main thing. So what that lined up with was that. Let's see if I draw a little pick mark here. That lined up with that, or I lined it up with that. Okay. And then the same on the other side. We'll assume that the square button that they start with is here. So again, it's 5 mil below and 5 mil above, because we know the height of it is 10 in total. Okay, but again, if that causes a little bit of confusion, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. Okay. And what we'll do now is we have to come down, or well, we can extend that out, I suppose. And we can extend this down. And we'll measure another 10, which happens to be on that red line. And another 10. Now again, yours may look out slightly different to mine. It just depends on the thickness of my markers. I may be a little bit off in some areas. Basically, I'm keeping a 10 mil gap between each shape for the button. So I have a rectangle here, or a square, for drawing my X in. So I'll draw in both corners. I have my square done. This triangle here, if it's 10, there must be 5 to the middle. So I'll draw this rectangle, or this triangle, sorry. And then the last thing is to do the circle. Now, unless you have a circle template, you're going to really struggle to get that circle in. So all I'm going to do is just sketch it. Okay, it's better to sketch on the day of the exam than not put something in. Okay, but that's the question done, completed. I have the screen, I have the crosshairs, I have the various buttons put in. Even if we just got the screen on the outside curves, that will be sufficient. And what I'm going to do is maybe take a colour and just shade it in there. Okay, so I definitely don't want to go too heavy, because I spent a lot of times doing the constructions and I want the examiner, and also he send me back this question that I can see how you did it. Okay, I'm just going to shade it sort of a reddy colour, so a little bit of, and stand it out a little bit, and then maybe if I have a blue for the screen. Okay, so something that you shouldn't be spending too long on, 2 or 3 minutes. And there's my question, and I'll try to zoom it in a little bit better so that you can see the whole thing in one go. That's pretty good. Okay, and that's the work for today.